Hey everyone, welcome back to another late night dive into Reddit's creepiest corners. Today's lineup is disturbing, shocking, so grab a drink, grab a snack, get comfy, and let's get into these twisted Reddit stories. Oh, and if you enjoy these stories, smash that like button and subscribe. You don't want to miss what's coming next. I took my family to a water park. It ruined our lives. Okay, buddy, we're right here. If you hurry, we can hit the wave pool before we go. I ruffled Will's hair and gave him a little push. He folded his arms, defiant. The racing slide. It's the funnest one. Most fun, I corrected. And whatever you say, Willie. He nodded with a, satisfied, and scurried off. He weaved his way through the molasses of the crowd, splitting families and couples as he homed in on the dilapidated porta-potty. This was one of the few recent attempts Will had dared to use the bathroom all by himself. He was capping a good run, but being out of the house, I kept an eye on the door for any signs of distress. Said it 100 times. I would have noticed anyone coming or going. Maybe for 5 seconds I looked away. Was that enough time for him to jump out? And, what, run off in the opposite direction? About 5 minutes after he had gone, I got up. I leaned on a casual arm against the porta-potty, in a whisper shout over the drone of the few hundred happy pool-goers behind me. Buddy, it's me. How's it going in there? There was movement inside. I swear it. I swear it wasn't my imagination. I heard something. I turned and saw my wife, dipping dots in one hand and waving with the other. Can't call it a day at the water park without ice cream. I smiled and wrinkled my nose as a joke. All right, Will. I'm coming in. The door was unlocked. I made an effort to open it as little as possible and slip inside. I did a double take, turned a full 360, checked the neighboring porta-potty, and returned. No, he couldn't have. I peered down past the toilet seat. Log-sized turds floated in the septic stew below. Will? I stepped outside and circled the porta-potty. Will? I called again. My wife appeared next to me, holding Lila's hand. What happened? Where's Will? She asked. I don't know. He was inside. Lila, did you see him leave at all? My daughter shook her head, thrusting a spoonful of dots into her mouth. You were supposed to be watching him, my wife said. I know. I grabbed the arm of a man nearby. Excuse me, sir, did you see my son leave this porta-potty here? I described Will in detail. He saw the desperation in my eyes but shook his head. Sorry. Try the lifeguard station. I'm sure this happens all the time. He wished us luck, and I thanked him. My wife was beginning to cry. She was starting to scare Lila. I ran ahead, cutting through one of the splash pads and hopping the fence to the lifeguard station. Oh, excuse me, sir. An acne-riddled teenager with a red and white uniform stood up from behind the desk. My son. I can't find my son. Is there some announcement you can make? Something? The teen closed his eyes. Yeah, give me 1 sec. I'm kind of new, so I think I don't have a second. If you can't help, then get me a goddamned manager, I snarled. A petite girl, also in high school by the looks of it, turned the corner, oblivious to the nature of the conversation. Hey, you can't talk to him like that, she pouted. There's no need to be rude. I stabbed my finger at her, my temper, at the end of its wick. I'll be as rude as I damn well like. Get me a fucking manager or I'll go back there and find one. The police were called, primarily for me. I was screaming, knocking things over, foaming at the mouth, my wife said. The cops said I would have to calm down or they'd handcuff me. They sent out an announcement over the park's PA system. William, your parents are looking for you at the lifeguard station. If you can find a lifeguard, we can get you back together as soon as possible. Don't worry, the lifeguard manager said. We radioed all our employees. He'll be back in no time at all. As it turns out, lost and found children in places like these is fairly common. The problem was, Will never turned up. How do you go home after that? We stayed as long as we could, but it's not like we could sleep on the slides. So, the same day I left for the water park with my family, we returned, one short. Lila didn't know what was happening. We told her Will had gotten lost and the police were looking for him. She asked why we weren't looking for him. She began to cry. The funny thing about humans is how simultaneously effective and ineffective we are at lying to ourselves. Because a deep part of yourself, something in your core, where you know you can trust it, smells the bullshit. And yet we'll take that lie and run, as far as we can, until our legs give out or we crash face first into a wall. After the first day, that piece of me in my core knew I'd never see Will again. But I ran like hell. My lust for closure deflated my marriage like a water balloon with a leak. I was stupid, too. I think I wouldn't get laughed out of the court during custody proceedings, but the one reprieve I had came yesterday. If I couldn't have answers, if I couldn't have my family or my son back, then I'd have some sweet revenge. This last year, I'd been leading media campaigns, doing interviews, and degrading myself to what I used to frown on and call an activist, all to destroy the water park that took my son. The park was small and got a lot of bad press in the local outlets where most of its customers were. Apparently, this wasn't the first incident in the park's history. Far from it, actually, having a long list of lawsuits and scandals. But it was the last straw, and eventually, they were forced to close. Yesterday was the first day of the demolition. I watched it in person, one-man audience, and it felt good. I was getting ready to leave around midday when a commotion at the site held me. Axe! Grab the axe! The crew was in mayhem, and advantageous to my curiosity. No one was around to stop me from hopping the barrier to get a closer look. It's dead. Stop! It's dead! I was too far to see what the men were standing over and crept closer. Fucker, that's a world record! Call someone. Who? The police. Animal control? Call someone, Christ's sake. Where did you find it? In here. Well, go check it. Be careful, too. I felt my way along a bulldozer, close enough now, and stuck my head past the edge. The scene made my knees buckle. I couldn't comprehend what I was looking at. Dead, and covered in hacks and slash marks, was a python. Never mind a snake. It was the largest animal I'd ever seen up close, long as a school bus, longer even, stretched out. Despite its size, it looked thin, as if it hadn't eaten in weeks. Tell me what happened, one of the construction crew asked a younger member. We were using the machine and clearing the area like you said. Went and knocked over them, port-a-potties, and the dragon came, rearing its head, out of one of the holes beneath. The crew began to buzz, taking pictures of the beast and kicking it. The construction man nodded and called for the worker who had gone to check the hole. Come on out. That's a shithole, nothing to find. Boss? The site fell silent. What is it? There are bones. There are bones down here. I woke up screaming the next morning, wandered around the house until I went for the newspaper. After all the pieces were collected, the bones they found belonged to 10 unique skeletons. It was a reticulated python, the invasive one, 26 feet long. Found the humidity of the park nice and chose a place that wouldn't be crowded. Headlined the local paper for a day before it was pulled. Previous owners of the park still had some influence in the area. And what did I get? Closure? I would rather have been buried with my unanswered questions. I was tasked with babysitting for my neighbor's kid, but she has sent me an extremely weird message on WhatsApp. Please feed Mohan his dog food, pedigree, at 2 p.m. The packet is in the cupboard, and his dog bowl is kept near the kitchen sink. I stared at the WhatsApp message, reading it again and again. My emotions were caught between bemusement and nervousness at the bizarre request. I know what you all are thinking. Just feed the damn dog his kibble. But here are the facts. Mohan is not a dog. He is a 10-year-old. To give you all some context on my situation, I had agreed to babysit Mrs. Sharma's son Mohan because my mother wanted our new kooky neighbor to feel at home. And no, this was not a paid babysitting job. It was just an endeavor to build neighborly relations by my over-enthusiastic mother. But as I said just now, Mrs. Sharma was a kooky. I had only observed her twice, but both moments left quite an impression upon me. The first one happened when I caught her cutting a bar of soap like a carrot upon my mother's chopping board. She had brought a pack of those as gifts when she first came to visit us, a brand new pack of expensive sandal soaps. At that time, I was reading a book from a position where she could not see me, but I could see her on the sofa chatting with my mother. But when my mother went to the terrace to fetch our drying clothes for 10 minutes, I surreptitiously watched her take one of the bars and start dicing it upon the chopping board my mother had just used for slicing radishes. I looked away after 5 minutes, but Mrs. Sharma had clearly left no trace of her actions, because when my mother came back, they continued their nonsensical conversations, while my mother once again picked up her knife and continued chopping the remaining vegetables. Needless to say, I refused to eat dinner that night and ordered from Zomato. The second incident happened when I caught Mrs. Sharma tasting Pedigree, a popular brand of dog food. When my mother and I were visiting her home, Mrs. Sharma went into her kitchen to pour some drinks and snacks for us while we were waiting in her guest room. At that time, I had a sudden urge to use the washroom. I silently walked past the kitchen, but my eyes happened to glance upon her for a few seconds. And there she was, taking kibbles out of a Pedigree packet and putting them in her mouth. I refused to eat anything she served to me, and my mom later on. I also mentally grimaced every time my mom picked a bite to eat. The woman clearly had issues, and I wished that my mom had stayed clear of her. But fate had other plans. The two had become fast friends, and now I was saddled with babysitting Mrs. Sharma's 10-year-old son, Mohan. When I had questioned my mother about why we didn't see Mohan during our visit to Mrs. Sharma's house, my mom told me that it was because he had gone on a walk with a girl from our colony. My mom also gave me a list of written instructions on how to take care of that kid. I wish she would just WhatsApp me, but she just had to write it on paper in her terrible handwriting. Honestly, the only redeeming quality of Mrs. Sharma so far was that she was not as technophobic as my mother and had agreed to message me the instructions. The babysitting ordeal was to last from 12 noon till 6 in the evening. I had not even glanced at the list my mother had given me, as Mrs. Sharma had promised me that she would text me the relevant tasks throughout the day. So, with an irritated look upon my face, I went to pursue the challenge. I first saw Mohan in the living room of their house, watching television. An episode of Doraemon blared from the television, and I winced at how loud it was, but the kid was unaffected. Mrs. Sharma had just deposited the keys to her house with me right outside the house and left in a hurry, without even introducing me to her kid. Her craziness clearly wasn't going away anytime soon. I felt sorry for the kid for having such a weird mother without even having met him. So that is how I had relaxed a little and entered their living room after safely locking the door. I was told by my mother that Mohan was 10 years old, and he looked exactly like a normal 10-year-old would. He was watching the television screen with his black hair combed back, wearing a red t-shirt and a pair of comfortable pants, munching on Maggi noodles with a glass of mango juice nearby. I introduced myself to him, and he monotonously replied to my basic questions, his attention clearly fixed upon the television. But he looked comfortable enough, so I went into the guest bedroom of the house to watch Dairy Girls on Netflix after reassuring him to call me if he needed anything. I was captivated by the show until Mrs. Sharma's message notification came on WhatsApp. That is when the weird message that I had talked about earlier came in at 1:40 p.m., and reading the message made me wish that there was some version of, quote, CPS in India, because the entire event just screamed that something abusive was going on with Mohan and his mother. I wondered if Mrs. Sharma was joking with me, so I nervously went to the cupboard to see if I would actually find dog food over there. I was hoping that the last time I saw her eat Pedigree kibbles in her kitchen was just some hallucination or glitch in the Matrix moment. But there it was, a yellow packet with a cute little golden retriever picture. A big packet of Pedigree. I stared at it for a good 10 minutes, wondering what my next step should be. Should I make a run for it and inform my mother about the incident? Or should I grab Mohan along with me too? Or should I just ignore my conscience and feed him the dog food and finish my babysitting task? Because if the past events were anything to go by, it certainly would not be the first time he would be eating it. My mind was racing in all directions until suddenly I heard scratching at one of the bedroom doors nearby. To say that my blood had turned to ice by now would be an understatement. I quickly ran to Mohan and asked him what was causing the scratching. Maybe it was just a pet that Mrs. Sharma had confused with Mohan, I thought nervously. But Mohan's reply caught me off guard. It is the red man, he told me. What? Just ignore him and don't open that door. After giving that vague answer, he went back to watching a cartoon. I was beyond scared by this point and just wanted to bolt out of the house. But one question still lingered in my mind. Does your mother feed you Pedigree? I asked him cautiously. Mohan looked at me for a few seconds and nodded yes. I sucked in a breath and hurriedly told him to come with me to my house. He had clearly been abused and was under some delusion of the red man. I could not in good conscience leave the kid here with that crazy witch. So I just grabbed his arm and started dragging him with me. I frantically reassured him that we would call the police on his mother and he would be safe from her. But he quietly told me that there was no point to that. That made me pause in my tracks. I looked over my shoulder to see that he had suddenly become hunched over and was shaking with tears. That woman is not my mother. My mother was killed 2 years ago. The red man had killed her. And if you try to complain about it, it will kill you. What the hell are you talking about? I screamed at the kid, my mind spinning. It is true. It used to be just me and my mom, the real Radhika Sharma. She used to be normal. But one weird rule existed in our house. Mom had forbidden me from going to the guest room of my house, claiming that a ghost lives there and we should be wary of him. I used to be extremely afraid of that threat because I could sometimes hear scratching sounds from behind that locked door. One night, when I went to get water, I saw her standing outside the door to that room with a very frightened look on her face. I saw it. A red hand had suddenly emerged from the door and grabbed her inside. I ran back to my room and hid under the covers the entire night. I was sobbing throughout the night and was terrified. Terrified that my mother had been killed. Terrified that the red man exists and that he would come after me. He never came out. The next day, my mother came to wake me up. I was scared but happy to see her. But that morning, for breakfast, she served me the pedigree that used to feed our dog at that time. Her eccentric behavior did not end there. She would always take baths with a mixture of milk and oil. She would sleep on the roof of our car with her eyes open. She would twist her neck at odd angles pretty often. And she would also cut up slices of soap to feed our dog. Our dog, he died soon because of that. I stared at Mohan with a numb feeling. He continued his rambles. I knew then that thing was not my mother. That my mommy was dead. And I also knew that whatever that thing is, it was trying to imitate humans. It has gotten rather good at it over 2 years. We moved a lot during that time. It will always chat up the new neighbors, trying to appear more and more normal. I knew it was some weird creature, but I also knew that it was not the red man, because no matter where we moved, there would always be one of our rooms that would be locked and off limits to me, and I could hear scratching behind it. He finally finished his story while sobbing throughout. I just kept on standing there, feeling like an icy hand had gripped my heart. I was not afraid of the kid. I knew he would survive somehow. I was afraid for myself, knowing that I had basically entered a haunted house. Mohan had escaped my grasp and run upstairs, probably to cry to himself some more. But I knew that if I didn't get out of the house that second, my legs would give out and I would not escape alive. I was about to make a run for it when I heard a tire screech in the background. Mrs. Sharma, or more pointedly, the thing imitating her, was home. I just stood there frozen like a statue when the lock turned. The thing must have had a spare key, of course. And within moments, it opened the door and entered the house with a cheery face. "Hello, dear. How was your day? I am sorry I came home early." The grocery shop I like was closed today, and I was free to come home early. "I hope you had fun with Mohan. He is very friendly." The thing grinned at me. I just stared in silence, not a movement out of me. It moved towards the room from where the scratching sounds were coming from, still chatting me up. I hope Mohan ate his food properly. He generally is a good boy, but I had to discipline him for a very long time for him to reach that stage when it comes to food. I watched in silent horror as it came to stand before the door with the scratching sounds, but a confused expression came upon his face. "Dearie, did you not let Mohan out of the room?" "Huh?" The inquisitive expression just escaped my mouth, the first prickle of curiosity coming over me. Without any warning, its hands turned the handle and opened the door. I screamed and tried to make a run for it, until I heard a bark from behind me. I just froze upon the spot, slowly turning my head around. I expected to see a grotesque red figure with a creepy smile coming at me with inhuman speed. Instead, a happy golden retriever ran up to me. I tried to collect my thoughts for a minute. I expected that this was all a show, and both the woman and dog would soon reveal their true, paranormal forms. But nothing of that sort happened. The golden happily continued to hug me, and Mrs. Sharma watched with a worried look on her face. "Did you not feed him, dearie? Mohan must be very hungry now," Mrs. Sharma replied, pointing to the dog. "What are you talking about? Mohan is your son, isn't he?" "I refer to him as my son, but he is not my actual son, dearie. He is a dog. Why are you asking such a weird question?" But were you confused all this time because you thought I had an actual son? I never had a child, and I had never been married. I've only had one companion for 10 years, my beloved Mohan. Let me feed him now. He must be hungry. With that, she walked towards the kitchen. I just excused myself and ran to my home. I ambushed my mother as soon as I saw her. Did you know that Mohan was a dog? I angrily questioned my mother. Of course. Why are you asking such an idiotic question? Was that not clear enough the first time you saw him? Mohan, being a dog, was literally the first thing I wrote in my list, but you did not read it. My mother chided me. I was at a complete loss for words. If Mohan were a dog, then who the hell was the boy I had talked to? Wanting more answers, I started narrating Mrs. Sharma's past actions to my mother. I told her about Mrs. Sharma's weird soap-chopping and pedigree-eating behaviors from earlier. I expected her to be shocked at this, but she only laughed. She was chopping the soap because I had asked her to do that, silly. I had wanted to take those pieces of soap to keep them in our potted plants. I had read somewhere that they repel insects and wanted to check for myself. And as far as the pedigree eating is concerned, she did not eat it. She told me that she puts a few pieces in her mouth to encourage Mohan to eat them. She sometimes does it even when he is not there, out of absent-mindedness. You may think it is weird, but the tactic has been quite effective so far. With that, my mother started walking towards the dining table, still speaking. You have really disappointed me this time. I expected you would take better care of Mohan. You are lucky Mrs. Sharma is a sweet lady. She would probably forgive you. Mrs. Sharma had even brought a gift for you for taking care of Mohan. My mother kept on ranting. My mother pointed towards a painting kept on the dining table, but as soon as I saw it, beads of sweat started collecting on my forehead, and I felt like I would faint. Because the painting consisted of a picture of the same boy I had talked to earlier that day, and on the bottom right corner, it was signed as the Red Man. Since then, I have tried to throw out the painting multiple times, but it keeps on showing up in weird places in my house. So, all I am requesting you guys is that if you ever end up babysitting a kid talking about the Red Man, just call an exorcist. No one's allowed to look at my brother when he eats. I never thought it was weird. It was the same as Dad going to work every day and Mom cooking dinner every night. Just Maddie always ate upstairs. Mom made sure everyone at the table had a full serving before she got to work on Maddie's plate. She would load it with supersized portions of whatever was for dinner, plus leftovers from last night. By the time it was ready, the mountain of food would put Dad's appetite to shame. The night after my 8th birthday, Mom's arms shook while carrying Maddie's dinner. She teetered across the kitchen with a serving plate, the one we use for appetizers when we have guests. 3 hamburgers, 2 chicken breasts, egg salad, at least a half-dozen corn dogs, and a pile of potatoes. Squeezed next to that were pork chops, meatballs, shrimp fried rice in a Tupperware, and a full mixing bowl of mac and cheese. Do you need help, honey? Mom shook her head, finding her balance on the stairs. Oh no, Mama's got it. Maddie's not feeling well today. Don't stuff him now. I turned to Dad. Frankly, I was in a bad mood. Maddie hadn't wished me a happy birthday yet. In fact, he hadn't come out of his room all day yesterday. He was 2 years older than me, and our sibling rivalry ran deep. Why does Maddie need that much food? What if I'm still hungry? Why doesn't he just come down and eat it here? He's a growing boy, you know. Puberty's hitting him. That's a time when every kid undergoes remarkable changes. You'll see. He ignored my other question, so I asked again. Dad put his fork down. Your brother is self-conscious. I know, we've told him it's silly, but we're respecting his decision, giving him time. And you should too. He's your big brother, but he doesn't have one. What he's going through can be scary. I crossed my arms. Sounds like a big baby. Enough. His voice cut through me. He spoke through his teeth. Apologize. I mumbled under my breath. Excuse me? I'm sorry. Dad nodded. Mom came down a minute later, and we finished our dinner in silence. In bed, I began to plot a nasty trick. The next day, after the bus dropped me off, Mom told me she was going for groceries and to stay in the house in case Maddie needed anything. I went up to his room and knocked on the door. Maddie? There was no response. Some of my friends from school are coming over today. Do you want to play with us? Again. Nothing. I made a face and started down the steps. He wasn't making this easy. Halfway down the stairs, there was a sound from behind his door. "Maddie?" Something dragged a short distance before stopping. I held my breath, straining to hear more. A few seconds passed before I hopped the rest of the way down, confused but eager for my friends to arrive. Mom was in the kitchen preparing dinner when Hunter and Cody got dropped off. They popped out of an SUV Hunter's mom drove and waved, running towards the house. We played for a little while, in the yard while I explained my plan. Cody looked like he couldn't wait. "That doesn't sound nice," Hunter mumbled. "Maddie's never nice to me." "Remember my birthday party? He didn't even go on the bouncy house." Cody piped up. "Yeah, we're not gonna hurt him, Hunter." A few more minutes were all it took to convince him. Then, dinner was ready. Mom tiptoed around the table, dispensing slices of brisket and spoonfuls of pasta with gravy and Italian bread. Cody and Hunter dug in immediately, in a few seconds, vaporizing half their plate. I made sure to eat fast, too, but kept an eye on Mom. She always put a lot of care into Maddie's plate. After she was finished, up she went. When she returned to the kitchen, there was nothing on our plates. "Wow, you boys are hungry." "Not anymore," I said, patting my stomach. "Careful," Dad laughed. "If you eat like that, you'll get sick." I crossed my arms and scooted off my chair. "Come on, guys. Let's play in my room." "All right, just don't bother Maddie while he's eating." We hid our smiles. We made sure our footsteps could be heard from downstairs, walking into my room, and loudly closed the door. Then, tiptoeing, we crept, out of my room, down the hallway, until we were in front of Maddie's door. "I'm still hungry." Cody giggled through his hands. I knocked quietly. "Hello? Maddie?" Silence. "Can I come in?" Hunter began pointing insistently back towards my room. I waved him off. "Maddie, it's just me. My friends left." 10 seconds trudged by. Cody looked disappointed. Something hot began to well up in my chest. It wasn't anger. Maybe jealousy? I put my hand on the doorknob. I got A's in all my classes, and Mom and Dad would pat me on the head before mentioning how Maddie used to get A+S. Every day at school, the teachers always asked, "How's Maddie doing?" I was the one who loved our dog, Archie, the one we had to give away because he never stopped barking at Maddie's door. He doesn't play sports, he doesn't have any friends, and he doesn't even go to school. He never comes out of his room. He was a good-for-nothing older brother. No, it was hate. I hated Maddie. I pushed the door open. Immediately, a vile smell hit our noses, causing Hunter to gag. The curtains were drawn tight around the windows, casting a gloom over the mess inside. Broken toys, shredded notebooks, overturned chairs, and even some broken glass. A cooking program for children played on a small TV, its volume just loud enough to hear over a rickety desk fan. Who's ready to welcome our guests for this episode? The fan could only do so much, though. The remains of food stained everything in the room. You couldn't step anywhere to avoid the mold covering the floor. Bits of meat clung to the screen of the television. Red sauce smeared the wall, and there was a large stain on the sheets of the bed. Hunter tapped my shoulder. "This is gross. I want to go back." "Your brother is nasty," Cody proclaimed. He stepped meticulously into the room, leaving Hunter and me by the door, using the toys like you would stones to cross a river. He jumped onto the bed and recoiled. "Ew! It's wet! We should leave," Hunter begged. "And what's your name, sweetie?" the TV whispered. I searched the room with my eyes. It was my first time inside in years. I remember when Maddie and I used to be inseparable. I may have hated him, but it had been so long since I'd seen him. "I'm Emily." Cody bounced on a dry part of the bed, laughing. "So, where's the good food?" "Hold on," I said. "Maddie? Why, Emily? You look good enough to eat." It was just unfortunate when Maddie's accident happened. When I thought about it, I don't think I've actually seen him since that field trip. Mom and Dad would show me recent pictures and videos of him, but I can't tell if he looks older or not. It was partly my fault. I was distracted by all the gifts Mom and Dad got me afterward. They treated me with some of the money they got from the stem cell lab in court. Maddie's accident was all their fault, Mom and Dad said. Something shifted from the far side of the room. Cody's face lost its color. "Cody, let's go." When his feet hit the ground, a pale hand darted from beneath the bed. Cody tumbled to the floor, shrieking, "Help! Cody squealed. There was a clattering from the kitchen and footsteps hurrying up the stairs. Hunter ran out of the room wailing. I was glued in place by a morbid fixation. The hand that was clamped tightly around Cody's ankle. Was that Maddie's? That thing, impossibly tall, clambering out from underneath the bed. That couldn't be my 10-year-old brother, right? I felt my dad's arm scoop me up and rush me into the hall. Before he shut the door, I could see Mom with her arms raised in front of a monster. It was holding Cody upside down. Its swollen belly dragged along the floor as if it swallowed a boulder. I blacked out. The reason I'm writing this is that I didn't remember Maddie until a few days ago. I'm in my 30s. For the past month, my wife has encouraged me to go to a specialist due to night terrors that began last year. They had started infrequently, but recently it's been every other night that my cries disturb our sleep. I met with a woman who put me under some sort of hypnosis to help me remember trauma. I woke up with those terrible memories. She told me the event could have been rejected from my memory naturally due to its severity, or another specialist had induced amnesia in me. I had even forgotten about Hunter and Cody. I looked for them both on social media and was able to get in contact with Hunter. He wasn't very receptive at first, but he agreed to meet after hearing my situation. We sat at a bar. He gulped down his liquor before speaking. My memory is a bit funky too. I was in a mental hospital for a couple of months. We moved, and I learned how to push it away. The memory. In college, I found out it was labeled a kidnapping. What do you mean? Cody never made it out of the house. That, I remember. Your parents did a damn good job. I don't know what hoops they jumped through or whose pockets they filled. He paid for his tab. Don't contact me again. On the way back to my car, I tried calling my mom. She hasn't answered her phone all day. My dad passed away last year, but my mom still lives at my childhood home. I need to talk with her, in person, and maybe I'll burn that house down on my way out. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate every single one of you. If you haven't already, please give the video a like and hit that subscribe button. We're aiming for 1,000 subscribers, and I know we can get there soon with your support.